allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. And the next person on our agenda is Charlie, how do you pronounce it? Governale, and he will tell us about what King County is planning to do in terms of conservation. Right? Is that fair?
That's correct. Yeah. I can't quite see the screen from there.
You don't have to stand there, or are you
I'll grab a chair right here.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Nice to meet you, everyone. So I'm here from King County's DNRP, the Department of Natural Resources and Parks, to talk about the land conservation initiative that we have underway. So the executive, Dow Constantine, has advanced this initiative to finish the job of protecting all high conservation value lands in the county within a generation. And over the past many years, the county and its various partners have worked to identify where those really important high conservation value lands are around the county. And we're in the process right now of meeting with cities and community groups to make sure that we've identified those high conservation value lands in the urban areas as well. So I'm going to give you just a little bit of background on what the initiative is and the stage that we're at, and then that should take 15-20 minutes, and then we'll be looking for comments, feedback, ideas, input. So we'll go ahead and get started here. So as part of this initiative and work plan, the executive convened an advisory group of regional leaders from various sectors, from city government representatives, nonprofit organizations, community groups, the real estate sector, a whole range, to provide feedback on this vision for finishing the job of land conservation in the county. And that advisory group finished the first phase of their meetings in December and gave us, the staff team at the county, a bunch of work to do to come back to them this fall for a second round. And part of that work has been engaging with the community, engaging with the cities, refining the vision. So we'll go ahead and get into it, and I'll describe what this vision is. So starting at the really big picture, the concept is that we live in this very special place with King County here in the heart of the Cascades region in the Northwest, and that the landscape itself is valuable and worth protecting, in part because it gives us a competitive economic advantage and this special quality of life that we gain here. So thinking about the longer term, as you all know, we've had quite a lot of population growth to date, and the projection is for a lot more to come. And the question for us at the Department of Natural Resources at the county is, how do we foster this growth but protect those important conservation lands that maintain the quality of life that we have through this growth? And that's part of what's driving this growth, attracting people to the region. So we see a variety of benefits from finishing this job of conservation, from those on the climate change front, resiliency in the face of an uncertain future, biodiversity. Often we don't realize what we have until we've lost it. On the social equity side, there's unequal access right now to green space and open space, and we have to fix that. On the human health side, there's lots of data and science out there that demonstrates the benefit to people from a health perspective of being in green spaces and active in the outdoors. On the economic development side, There's both the indirect benefit that I mentioned, this high quality of life that access to open space contributes to. And so people want to live here, employers want to be here. It's a growth engine for the region, as well as direct benefits, recreation, economy, and timber and farming economies. So this initiative is in the context of what's already been a lot of very good work in the region by county, cities, various partners, community efforts. This map just gives a brief overview with some of the green areas on the map showing conservation successes to date. So, despite all that good work that's been done, there's more left to do. For example, on Puget Sound water quality, the sound may look scenic, but it's actually sick and declining from a biological perspective and a water quality perspective. On salmon recovery, we aren't achieving that at the pace that we would like. Stormwater control, so stormwater is still the single biggest source of pollution into the sound. We continue to have problems with flood damage along our river corridors to people's residences and communities. There are trail connections that are missing in the regional trail network that's been started but not yet finished. And forest and farm economies are fragile. They're losing people and land every year. So how do we protect those landscapes? So in crafting this vision, we have identified several different categories of lands. First of which is natural lands for clean water, wildlife, clean air, recreation, ecological integrity. There are healthy forests for clean water and wildlife and recreation, as well as a sustainable timber industry. Abundant farmland for healthy local food and a thriving farm economy. A regional trail network, and this is specifically talking about trails that help connect communities for biking and running, non-single occupancy vehicle transit. So letting people be able to move around the region without a car and be outside and active. Natural river corridors. So this is talking predominantly about rural river corridors and the benefits they provide. But also we have a category for urban river corridors. And then last, in the advisory group process that we've been going through, we've come to the conclusion that we need to define a separate urban green space category, because a lot of the types of lands I just walked through exist in a slightly different form in urban areas, right? So, for example, commercial farmland isn't really what you'd see in an urban setting, but you might have a pea patch or a community garden that serves a lot of the same functions. So then, those are the categories of high conservation value lands that we're thinking about in this initiative. An additional piece that is part of this vision is this open space equity objective. So I mentioned this briefly before, but the county has done some initial mapping to try to identify where poor access to parks and open space overlays with health conditions, high rates of asthma, diabetes, heart disease, which are activity-related health conditions, overlaps with lower income areas, higher percent non-white and non-English speaking, and ask, okay, what are those places where on that combined metric have the most need for additional open space? Where would additional public open space have the biggest impact? And this is a draft map. There's some technical issues that we need to address. It won't be guiding anything yet at this stage, but it gives you an idea of the type of vision. It would be to kind of level the playing field of access to open space. So you can see some of the areas right now on the east side of Lake Washington, for example, have higher access to open space in addition to higher incomes and lower rates of health problems. And areas in parts of South King County, including some around the east side of North Highline, have less access. So what we are working out right now is how exactly we apply the insights from this mapping tool to guide the land protections that this initiative envisions. So we may do something like set aside a particular slice of the funding that we raise to try to fix these red areas, to provide more open space resources in the red areas. That's an idea we're still formulating exactly how that would work, but it's one of the objectives.
And it's also interesting to me, because I was focusing in on the localities near where I'm familiar, that there was a huge, big King County open green blob right there in East Benton or in Tukwila, spanning them, that doesn't seem to be reflected on this map, because it seems to show quite not much access to it.
Yeah, so we can, I'll open it up for questions right at the end of this, and we should have more discussion about that for sure. This, as I said, this is very much a draft, so it doesn't, there's some issues with the data sources, but also this is overlaying a number of different factors and not just open space access. But let's come back to this. That's a good question and something to discuss. So,
Can you explain what open space access means? I mean, I can
Yeah,
walk down
for
the
sure.
park down here
right, so
without any problems.
the way we measured this was looking at, and again, this is just a first stab at trying to understand the problem, but this was radius. So for a given place, in a set radius from that area, are there public parks and other public green spaces? To what extent are how many and what amount of that is available? But let's come back to this in the Q&A and have some more discussion. So in thinking about the impact of this initiative, there's many different benefits from protecting these various categories of lands here on the left. Benefits to the economy, benefits to the environment, and all of this, various types of benefits to people. We can come back and discuss any of these, but this was just an attempt at trying to, in kind of a consumer report style, show the various benefits that this initiative would help provide. So all of this put together is to say that for many different reasons, we think finishing the job of land conservation in this region will help us maintain a higher quality of life and a vibrant economy going forward. And one question that we ask ourselves, and many people ask us, it's a very important one to answer, is why now? There's a lot of other competing priorities, particularly now. And we see a couple strong reasons for doing this land conservation initiative now. So, for one, the longer we wait, the more expensive it becomes. As we all know, real estate values are going up very rapidly in this region, and that applies to lands that may be valuable public open spaces the same as it does to lands that may be well suited for housing development. As population grows, opportunities to conserve land will diminish and simply disappear. Some of these very special places do get built on, are getting built on. That's why we want to protect them, to keep providing public value. And climate change is creating an uncertain future. To have the flexibility and resilience in this region to respond to what may come down our road is very important, we think, to set up for that now, not knowing what's coming. So we considered all those objectives in those land categories, and over the years, the county's team has identified these high conservation value lands. We'll talk through the different parts of this chart, but to start, this is showing not anything in cities, but urban unincorporated and rural unincorporated areas of the county. This is showing the high conservation value parcels that we have identified as part of this initiative. And that totals to about 5,500 parcels, about 66,000 acres. And that's across these different categories of lands here, which make the columns. Sorry, my mouse isn't working great here. So you can see natural lands, rivers, forests, farmland, and trails. So there's a couple of these with multiple columns, which is to avoid double counting. Some of these lands provide various types of benefit. For example, if on a farmland by the river you set back a levee to help with flood protection, you protect the farm from turning into a subdivision to help keep providing food, and you put a trail on top of the levee to help connect the regional trail network. So that's why there's multiple columns under some of these. But the big picture here, you can see this is new acquisitions of either fee or easement that we think would finish the job of land conservation. And this bottom row, where you can see the blue and brown circles, shows the balance of fee versus easement that we propose. On lands where there would be more active work by the county and its partners and communities, we're proposing mostly fee on the left side. For example, riverside corridors where there needs to be levee setbacks, riverside restoration work, natural lands where there needs to be trail development for people to be able to use it for recreation. And then there are forests and farmlands where the county is proposing purchasing easements, which simply remove the development rights from the land, but allow it to continue to be used to produce timber or food, and in some cases can provide public access.
So are the fees then the owner of the property would pay?
So the fee purchase, all of this is land that the county would purchase to make into public open space. In the case of easement lands, the county would purchase an easement, which is basically just a right to prevent development on those properties, but the owner still maintains the property and can still grow food on it, for example. But all of this land that is the remaining high conservation value land, we estimate would cost somewhere around $1.5 to $1.8 billion to successfully protect and complete the vision. And that includes the acquisition of the lands, as well as the transaction costs and 30 years of operations and maintenance, because we don't want to buy a bunch of new public land without being able to maintain it so that it's usable for the public.
Can you, I know I interrupted you,
Yeah.
but you mentioned the development rights easement. Is that through the transfer of land development rights program?
That is one way in which we have bought easements.
Can you, either now or later, talk about which of these columns that applies to?
Yeah.
Or if it applies at all?
Certainly. That program generally applies to forest and farmland. I have a slide on that program later, so we'll come back and talk a little bit about that for those who aren't familiar with it. Okay. My mouse seems to have gone dead here, so give me 1 second to try to flip slides. All right. So the good news is that we think we already have funding assembled to accomplish 2/3 or more of that vision. And this pie chart basically shows various different funding sources available to the county over the next 30 years. So, for example, if we look at the first one, the conservation futures tax here, that is the King County portion of that tax, compiled over 30 years, comes to about $160 million of revenue that we can allocate towards land acquisitions. And going around the wheel here, there are additional funding sources of decreasing certainty that we believe we can put towards completing this vision. One example down here is the King County Parks Levy. That is on the less certain side because the Parks Levy would need to be repassed each 6 years in order to provide this 30 years worth of funding. And then that leaves us with this gap here, which is somewhere around 400 million of new funding that we would need in order to complete the vision and finish the job of land conservation in this generation. So that is where we've been focusing a lot of our effort, is trying to figure out, okay, where is it most appropriate for this new funding to come from? How do we go about seeking that if the vision is indeed a vision that we as a county want to move forward with? And we can come back and talk about the details of any of these different funding sources in the Q&A if it's of interest. So this here is just a quick look at the first red dashed line here shows with that 2/3 of the funding that we already have, how would we do in buying these lands over the next 30 years? So it shows that, well, we would not be able to finish that job, right? If we just at a constant rate, annual purchases with the annual income streams, bought lands, we would not get to the 100% purchase. If we fill the gap with that new funding that I was talking about seeking, we may be able to complete this vision in about 30 years. The challenge here is that this is an early draft model, and it doesn't account for the potential dramatic rises in real estate value that may occur over 30 years. So in likelihood, we would not be able to fully complete that vision if we just annually purchase a steady amount with steady annual revenues. So a third option that we're considering is, can we take those annual revenue streams and pull some of it forward for the most reliable revenue streams, so bond against some portion of those revenues to try to buy as much of the land right now for public access as we can before real estate values increase. Just runs through that. So through the advisory group process, we've been considering various possible funding sources that could help us fill that gap. And these are just options being considered. The advisory group won't come to a final recommendation until December. But for now, the option that's attracted the most interest from the advisory group is the conservation futures tax. So this is legally able to be set up to 6.25% per $1,000 of appraised value. And right now, this rate is at about 4.5 cents per thousand. So the proposal would be to increase this rate back up to the maximum 6%, which if we did that twice over the next 30 years would provide the funding needed to fill that gap and complete the land conservation vision, provide this public open space. That would, raising that twice over 30 years would equate to about, I think it's $7 or $8 a year for the average household. There are various other options that are being considered here by the advisory group, and it may be a combination of these that help fill the gap, but we can come back and discuss individual ones in the Q&A. And just one note that we want to make while discussing funding sources is that whatever we do to complete this land conservation vision, we want to make sure that we do not jeopardize the parks levy, because the parks levy is very important for keeping our existing parks and open space operational for public use. As you can see here, about 50% of that levy is King County Parks O&M. That's where it goes to. And there's also money that goes to keep city parks and trails open. So it's very important that whatever we do doesn't jeopardize that parks levy. So we'll come back to that TDR slide, but that's an overview of the vision of the initiative and what we're working on trying to figure out as a county. Our next steps between now and September, we're doing community outreach like I am here tonight to talk to you. We're gathering feedback from various other community groups. We're talking with the cities throughout the county. We've already met with 36 cities and are into second round meetings. There's only 39 total, so we've got a lot of engagement so far, which has been very positive. And assessing several other aspects of the initiative, updating our costs and funding models, trying to refine some of the mapping that I had showed you and make that better and more accurate. And then we'll be going back to this advisory group in this fall for several meetings, and a final report and recommendations will go out in December to the executive. This is just highlighting the progress we've made to date in terms of conversations with the cities in the county and various different stakeholder groups that we've engaged with to date. So just a quick jump back to TDR before I finish here. So if we look back at this funding pie, there's a wedge here called transfer of development rights. And transfer of development rights is a program that exists within the county and also in collaboration between the county and cities to basically remove the development rights from rural areas that provide public values like food production or wildlife habitat, timber production, public open space, easements, and remove these development rights, sell the development rights. So there could have been homes built on this farm. Instead, those same housing units are built to make a building taller in an urban area, for example, or are a higher density development in a more urban area. And developers, in order to build that higher density, buy these development right credits from the county's bank. And the county uses that money to then go buy more protection, land protection, that then it can sell more credits to developers. So that's a quick overview of the program. North Highline is a receiving site for TDRs, as we call them, these transferable development rights, which means that particular properties in this area that meet the criteria of the program could potentially buy a development right that was produced by protecting a rural area and use it to build, say, a bit larger mother-in-law in the backyard, or to build a higher density on a given parcel. So that's the brief overview of the initiative. I'll open it up now for questions, comments, and
Shirley,
input.
what you just said about North Highline sounds to me like the county is thinking about making this area more dense and not giving us more green spaces. Tell me I'm wrong.
Yeah, so it's a multi-part answer. So first of all, as part of this vision, we would like to address any lack of green space that's here. And part of what I'm here for tonight is to gather ideas and input about what spaces in this area would be important for the community to have as public open space. The TDR program that allows increased density has been in place here for quite a while. It's the county is not focusing the density anywhere. It's more if a certain property owner here chooses to seek and buy that density, they may be able to add it here. But does that kind of answer the question? It's both.
It sounds to me still like, let me rephrase. Does the county, is it looking at saving any green spaces in North Carolina, or adding any?
Yes, so I don't have the map in front of me right now, but included in that list that I had showed there is some space along the Duwamish, for example. And we are, part of these community meetings, we are asking, tell us what other priorities you have, and we may be able to add them to this list of important lands to protect for public open space.
I would recommend the building that Mary's Place is now in.
Mm-hmm.
Mary's Place has a contract to keep the shelter there for 3 years. And thereafter, my understanding is that the county is looking to put more low-income housing on that land. That's right next to a park,
Mm-hmm.
a very urban area. I think enlarging the park would be appropriate.
Yeah,
So
I will.
That's my recommendation.
I am not a decision maker, but I would love to bring that input back. So maybe the best way, I'd like to gather specific parcels if people have ideas about those. So maybe the best way is if I'll put my email here and we can gather input from anybody we can talk about it now, and then to make sure we get exactly people's recommendations, we can collect emails and other input, and you can give me a ring, or we can talk over email, because that's the kind of thing we want to hear. I can't speak to what we'll be able to do, but I'm here to gather input, and we love ideas like that.
Is this online?
This presentation can be accessed online. I can be contacted on the phone or online.
I just wonder if there's a way to respond on looking at it online, saying response to you or through whatever site you have there.
Yeah, we'll set up so that after the meeting we can have make sure that information goes out via email and contact info and online resources and all of that.
Are you familiar with the Myers Way parcels in our area? That is land actually owned by the city of Seattle, but exists right on our boundary. And is this program work where in essence you, the county, would have to buy that from the city, or is that not what my understanding is? Because I'm sure Seattle would like to give some money for it. They tried to sell it for industry until the community objected.
Yeah.
And finally said they keep it, but they're a long way from wanting to do something with it, and it's huge.
I know a bit about Myers Way, but I'm not an expert. So as far as the city lands that I was talking about, to answer one of your questions, those meetings and discussions that we're having with the various cities, the question we're asking them is, hey, do you want to be part of this vision and this 30-year initiative to finish the job of land conservation? And the way that these cities would be part of this would be setting priorities within their city boundaries for public open spaces to create and protect. And those would be funded with existing city funding sources, as well in some cases with county. So for example, the Conservation Futures Tax that has a portion that cities can apply for to protect land, and then the county also uses that to protect land. So in this case of the Myers Way parcels, from the perspective of this initiative, it would be a question for Seattle of, is this a important parcel to have as public open space, and does Seattle want to make it one of their priorities? I really can't, I don't want to say too much because I don't work on projects related to Myers Way in particular, but I'm happy to, if there are additional questions, I'm happy to find the right people in the county who can talk to that better than I can. But we don't want to override city preferences and priorities for open space protection, so Seattle would have to be part of that conversation for sure.
For what it's worth, Seattle did say they were going to turn it into a park, so maybe using that little information would have some. Thank you.
Whoever was next here.
Can we have you come up here just so we?
Yeah,
can-
sorry, I think I'm done with the slides, so
Sorry.
I'll move up here if that's helpful.
Yeah.
Go for it.
How do you,
Either way.
how do you, get us removed from having the contractors having us as a dumping ground for low-income housing? We've got Greenbridge, we've got Yellow Gardens, we've got 3 more units going up there, and that's all in North High Line.
Right. That's a very good question. I don't do anything with affordable housing, but I can
But part
ask.
of this said that contractors could pay into the conservation and then have,
To even potentially increase the density of
Yes,
low-income.
sorry, those are two related
Different
things. This has nothing to do with housing at all. The
but the
transfer.
density of what's coming in, we're not getting any,
Green space,
green
space
space,
to stay
yeah, it's
away.
taken up by these developments for low income, which we don't get any tax revenue for.
Right,
And
I
couldn't a
hear what you're
developer
saying.
use transfer development rights to increase the size of a low-income housing development as well?
I
Or
don't-
density, I mean?
Yeah, I don't know how TDR specifically applies to a
But that's-
low-income project or
that's
not.
what
That's a
they're-
good
But
question.
that's what they're doing.
That's what's
Seattle's
happening
been
here.
saying that they're gonna allow people to build higher if they contribute to low-income housing,
That's
which
a
is
different,
really,
yeah.
really actually
Similar.
mathematically doesn't really work out, because if you get a Section 8 voucher, let's say in the city of Seattle,
Right.
you get a certain amount for one bedroom, you're priced out. You cannot find a one bedroom in, like, say, the downtown core
Right.
near your job. No, you have to go to Rainier Valley, or
Right.
where there's, you know, a little more crime, more problems, more, other, varieties of things going on. You're
Right.
not in a quote secure, high-rise apartment. But I've heard that. And now that you're telling me that that you're selling, or there's a plan, is this plan in place now?
The transfer development rights
Yeah.
program? Yeah, so it's a
Because-
program that exists
okay.
with any urban area in the county is a receiving site, and
Because-
any rural area is a sending
Because
site.
to me, that just means that okay, so then when my next door neighbor sells his house, then they'll just bulldoze the house and plant 5 apartments there instead of just one house. And to me, that means like my encroachment, that just means when you have more people living on top of each other, there's just more violence, less green space,
Mhm.
more tension, more frustration,
Right.
and then you have more pollution on top of that. So it's kind of like, what do we want?
Yeah, no,
And
it's a good question.
To me, it's just not, I'm kind of disturbed because I've already seen it twice. Let's see, how many times have I seen this? So there was one house, okay, so it's happened, so on one house, they built five like duplex apartments or
Was
whatever.
this
I don't even know what
recently?
they're all
In
rented.
the area.
Was this recently?
This is over the course of last maybe 10 years. So then recently, which was last year, there was one house, 2 huge townhouses were built, so that's like 4 places where one house used to be. And I don't even think the zoning was right because it encroached so close to the next property, you're supposed to have a certain
Right.
amount of distance. I'm sure, I'm like 99% sure that zoning law was broken, but nobody bothered to check.
Yeah.
And of course, I don't know when things are being built, not sure 500 feet next to it. And I can walk by and say, oh, look, that's being built, but my voice isn't gonna be heard because I'm not the next door neighbor. And then, of course, the next door neighbors, they're rentals, so they don't really care because, so
Yeah.
it's this very bad situation
It
right
does-
now.
it
And then
does-
just recently, then there's now one house that's gonna be turned into maybe 4 or 5, I don't know how many people are gonna live on that complex, quarter of that used to be one house. And so I'm rather disturbed by all this. Plus, these are things that are being priced out.
Yeah.
So that townhouse, $450,000, I can't afford that.
Yeah.
So I'm just kind of in a quandary as how can I get some of the land to my place
Right.
and not the encroachment, which is the issue for me.
Right. That's a very good question and an important issue. A couple things I want to address there. So one, a number of those redevelopments that you're talking about, I'd be surprised if any of those use the TDR program, because we actually have not had much TDR program use in the urban unincorporated areas of the county at this point. So that's probably within existing zoning law,
So then
which
it's
is
not
kind of a,
change zoning laws then.
yeah,
It's
which is
all
kind of a
up to
whole,
you.
yeah,
Yeah,
a whole
no, I'm
separate
for that.
discussion.
I'm 100% for that because
Um,
it's getting pretty ridiculous. It's
Right,
really-
so I agree that's an important issue, and unfortunately, this doesn't really touch on zoning law in that way at all. Because I have to look, but I'd be very surprised if those
Well,
were
you should-
TDR projects.
I
But-
come on a walk with you then. We'll show you where I'm
Yeah,
from.
yeah, no, I believe you, they're happening, I just
happening
think it's
everywhere,
within
yeah.
existing zoning.
You can find it online
But I
too.
think they broke the law.
You can find it
I personally
online.
believe that because
Yeah.
I've seen it once or twice and I'm like, man.
Yeah,
If
you
you'd
can
like
look
to,
online.
if you'd like to send me comments, I'm happy to find the right people to pass them along to.
That's a whole different
Yeah.
property. Whole different
But
department,
But
right?
yeah,
This is all a
that's
combination. This is everything involved. This is the
But
whole
it brings
thing.
up good
We're
points.
talking about this and then
Anyway,
zoning
we got
and
more
it's
people
all
questioning.
combined.
So the second part of what I'd like to address there is, we also, if there's a lack of open space here felt by the community, we want to figure out how to address that. So give me feedback, help us figure out what should be protected here. That's a big part of why I'm here, is to hear from the
Parkway.
community. Is there more that needs to be protected as public open space? If so, what? And so go ahead and we'd really like to gather input in as specific of a way as possible. So follow up with, I'll take some notes, but to make sure we get it, follow
Well,
up
give
with
me
an
your email and
email.
I'll tell you where.
We will.
Pictures and everything, yeah.
Yeah.
Charlotte, can you give folks your email?
Do you, is it better for us to, because we have the email list, to send out to everyone there, or is it better for me to say it now and have people write it down? Both?
Do both.
Perfect, all
Just write
right.
it on our
And actually, I have a stack of cards too.
Oh, good.
You can write it
Hang on one second here.
You could probably write it on our board up there too, if that.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and put it on the board there. And for now, does anybody who would like a card and email address?
Is Deeper involved in the focus, I don't remember what you called it, not focus group, but the
The advisory group.
advisory group. Is Deeper involved in that at all? And if not, why not?
Yeah, it's a good question. We don't have someone from Deeper sitting on that. They are very much aware
Because
of.
they are the land use people.
They are the permitting, yeah. They are very much aware of it.
They
and
handle, they're responsible for all the land use codes, as I understand it. I mean, that's
For
not
applying
just-
them.
Not
Yeah,
just part of it.
yeah. This doesn't propose changing any zoning code. This is solely,
But it's talking about a vision, not, you're not at the changing, policy change level yet from what you described.
yeah.
And, quite frankly, my experience with our zoning folks is that it's really archaic and they're not tuned into a vision for the future. And they need to be.
Yeah.
They're into how can I make the money now? They're into short term today. I want to be that millionaire or billionaire. How can I make that money now? And then, of course, fortunately, you people who are looking at
I mean, just for example, King County is very short now on unincorporated urban space. What that means in practice is it's like a target on White Center. Because White Center is only one of two urban unincorporated areas left in the county, and they're small. But if King County goes overboard with transfer development rights, just a little bit, it has an outsized impact.
Yeah.
So when King County goes overboard just a little bit on its marijuana policies, it has an outsized impact. Because there's no place you can buy marijuana in unincorporated King County now, except for White Center and Skyway.
Unfortunately, I don't know much anything about that issue.
That's 35,000 people, 10 operating marijuana stores.
You
Well,
give
let me
about 5 more minutes,
Perfect.
okay?
Let me add one comment on the TDR side. So, that pie wedge from TDR to this vision, the main push that we're making on TDR is to get interlocal agreements with the cities. That's where most of the growth and most of the density increase is happening. So that's the focus of this program. To date, it has been the TDR bank. The county doesn't do any transactions in the urban unincorporated area. It's just the private market. The great majority of that has been Seattle to rural King County. And that's where the focus will continue to be on interlocals with the city. So just, that's not the intent of the program, is not to focus density on these areas specifically.
But like I say, it only takes a little bit because it's a small area to start with.
Yep, I hear that, and we'll return that feedback. I don't know who is next here.
I have a perspective on the TDR, mostly because I've worked with Forterra.
Yeah.
You know
Yeah,
Forterra?
yeah.
And they do that work quite a bit. So I'd love to just talk about like the cons of not using TDR, because I think there are plenty of reasonable reasons why we do need to increase density, and not necessarily in White Center specifically, but throughout Seattle as the population grows to fight the spread, right? Because all of a sudden then we have Kent with more houses, or we have more farmland that is being taken with houses, which is farther away from places where people actually work, right? So I just wanted, you could go into like the cons of not having the TDR?
Sure. So your question specifically is the cons of growing without the TDR.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, it's a very good question. So basically, TDR on a big picture lets us have that. So if you were going to have a certain number of homes in the rural area, we can transfer those same number of homes into a city where it's cheaper for us as taxpayers to provide services to those people. There's less impact on transit, and doing that protects a bunch of that open space in the rural area for all of us to use and to provide clean air for us and clean water and all of that. That's kind of the big picture. I could go into more detail on everything if you wanted, but.
No, and I think it's just it's important
And
to understand like the
they all-
benefits of TDR, because I
Right.
know it does feel like we're being encroached on, but at the same time the city is growing
Right.
and the people have to go somewhere, and the other option is that they go into rural lands farther away from public transportation, which then, it creates more pollution in that way too.
And
right?
really,
More
they
cars,
actually-
more traffic.
Right.
There's
And-
a lot of negatives.
Yeah, and another option that's, in our minds, not as good as the TDR option is just giving away that increased density, which has happened in many parts of the county. So just
Right.
upzoning and just letting it go denser. With the TDR program, if you're gonna go denser, the developers pay in to help protect more open space to offset that,
Right.
on a regional level.
I think overall it just is important, obviously, to our community that it's fair and happens in Seattle more so than it happens here.
Makes sense.
Are there any TDR projects going on right now within 20 miles of you?
Within 20 miles of here, definitely.
You're ahead of the TDR program.
I am with my colleague Michael Murphy. We run the TDR program.
Okay.
There are a bunch of, I just got back from a TDR tour in South Lake Union this afternoon. So we looked at 15 or so mid-rise and high-rise buildings in South Lake Union that bought an additional couple stories from the TDR program by protecting. We looked at a couple different buildings. 1 story, 1,000 acres of farmland protected. 2 stories on another building, a couple thousand acres of forest land protected that has public access and grows trees. So there are plenty of TDR projects. They are 99% in these interlocal agreements.
What's
In
the
essence,
average cost per square foot of building?
cost for the TDR.
Yeah.
I don't know that off the top of my head because the way the code is set up, there's slightly different ratios depending on whether you're commercial or residential and whether you're protecting farmland or forest land. But I can find you that answer. It's not cheap for the developers, but it does end up being worth it for them in most cases in these really urban areas.
I think we had one more question.
There were a
from
couple,
Karen.
back here that we didn't get to answer.
All
I'll make this really quick so we're over. One of my concerns is like one of my neighbors, we're in a poor neighborhood. One of my neighbors is retired, fixed income, and he's borderline keeping his house right now. So higher taxes for some of us around here, you know, is gonna be a big problem. Myers Way, again, those parcels that have already been mentioned. I'd also like to mention, you had salmon habitat and Puget Sound and whatnot mentioned in there. It's also part of the Ham Creek drainage system, which is supposed to be salmon habitat. Huge amount of homeless living in there. I've got pictures of garbage along streams, all that
It's worse
stuff.
now.
So to me, it might want to be a priority because you hit several things in one shot with that.
Could you put that at the top?
Ham Creek and Myers Way.
Yeah, all of it.
The comment about taxes, I mean, it's a question we think about. It's is it worth making this investment now to finish the job of conservation for that extra $8 a year on the average home or not? I mean, it's a question that ultimately will go to the voters, right? If we pursue the CFT option, the conservation futures tax option, it will go to a ballot referendum as potentially as soon as August 2018, but maybe a year after that. And yeah, it will be for all of us to answer whether it's worth it.
I can afford it, and I'm all for what you're doing. I'm just afraid for some of our other people.
Right.
Now, if that was a countywide property tax, would it be applied the same dollar, let's say, it was $2 per thousand, just, I mean, whatever, or 20 cents per thousand?
Yeah.
Is that 20 cents per thousand across the board in the county, or does it vary by tax and
Is
jurisdiction?
it just personal homeowners, or is it all businesses, and how does that work?
Yeah, so I'm not an expert in how that tax is applied. My understanding is that it's 6 cents, or right now 4.5 cents per $1,000 of AV, and the assessor's office has an AV for every parcel, and that's how it's applied. But if you have more specific questions, I should definitely find you more people with more expertise to answer that.
One reason I asked about that is because the tax rate here in White Center, and where I live in Skyway, is about 50% higher than it is in Seattle.
Rate per
thousand, yeah. And so, adding the same amount to everybody's tax rate actually has a bigger impact where they're already paying a higher rate.
Shoot me a note and we can look up a little more detail about how exactly CFT is applied. But as far as I understand, it's just per dollar of AV, which is assessed countywide. I think we may be over time.
Thank you,
But,
Charlie, very much.
if anyone else would like to
Take them, folks, he responds.
Yeah. But also, I'd just like to do a little straw poll here. So hearing the vision of the initiative to finish this job of land conservation, can I just get hands raised for folks who just kind of gut reaction are excited about this vision? Go ahead and raise your hand. Okay. Tepid about this vision? And definitely not excited about it? Okay, cool, thank you. All right, well, shoot me any follow-ups if you have.
Carlos,
Awesome.
it's your
Is it my
turn.
turn? All right, perfect. Go ahead and take over. All right, so my name is Carlos Marquez. I am the Community Service Officer for the City of NorthBurien. It's also part of the King County Sheriff's Department, that's why you'll see the logo and the city patches. I'm here to talk about two topics today. First one is going to be the Block Watch community. How many of you are part of Block Watch? Yes. Perfect. Sorry, we need to get all those hands up because I think it's one of those programs that it is extremely important to be a part of, especially if you want to make the community much better. The second topic I'm going to be talking about is the Community Police Academy. The Community Police Academy is a program that the City of NorthBurien, the City of SeaTac, we both put together, and we're hoping that the unincorporated area takes over and kind of models the same program that we have, so that way it can be offered to y'all as well. So the first thing is the Block Watch community. So the reason why I think this is one of our most important programs is because it helps keep our neighborhood safe, but it can also we rely so much on y'all to make reports. If something happens to your neighbor's house, you're able to step up. You can watch out for each other, communicate, give us a call, report any crime, no matter the size. Some of the best ways, what block watch community are you from?
Up on 110.
So you had Deputy Dan and Dennis come in and do a presentation
Dennis?
as well?
Yes.
Perfect. So to get started basically is we give you the paperwork. Once you have a group of about 10 people set up, we come in, do a presentation, and just give you tips so that way you can stay safe. One of those tips is basically laying out the map. Some of you have the recap sheet that I brought in. We like to put in everyone's information so that way you know who your neighbors are. If you don't know who your neighbors are and you only have their number, the block watch community is really going to be no use. So once you get to know them, their location, and kind of become familiarized with them, and just kind of work together, it becomes a huge success. The second thing is basically doing things to your community, so the housing. If you want to protect your house, just add as much lighting as you can. The bills go up, but it prevents someone from breaking in and taking everything away. Because someone that comes in and sees a dark house, they're gonna go, oh, I'm gonna walk in, take everything. If they see the lights, they're gonna go, absolutely not.
Just-
Other best thing, yeah.
Just comments, as I've worked in a hardware store,
Mhm.
LED lights have gone down dramatically.
Exactly.
And they don't use much electricity.
Yeah, and that's the thing. People think about it. Even my mom goes, absolutely not. It won't be that much, I promise. It will not go up. But, and it becomes safer because then that way you kind of feel safe coming into your house, leaving as well. Instead of going in, it's kind of shady outside, you really don't want to come out at night. It's perfect. But the second thing is to protect your house is we advise everyone, especially now with technology going up like no other, you can get one of those doorbells where you can, as soon as you ring it, it comes up to your phone, you see who it is, and you can even set it up where other people can see it. So if you trust your neighbor, that same connection goes to them, so they're able to keep an eye on that person. If someone's coming looking a little bit suspicious, they can give us a call as well, so we can respond. Other tips that I recommend for a block watch community is for also that every house kind of work together on having the street signs or the house numbers kind of illuminated, because a lot of times when you have a deputy responding, if your neighbor is calling, most of the times they're not going to know your exact address, but if they can say, okay, it's this house, if they can look across the street, see something where they can rely to a dispatcher relies to a deputy, it's going to become a lot easier. Once they show up, they're going to act quicker, because a lot of times you can go in the house if it's dark, it's a pain, because I use Google Maps, I'm not from the area, and so sometimes I'll drive right by, come back, drive by again, finally I got my address, buy a picture and all that stuff.
Fire department too, so.
Yeah, exactly. But the next thing with the block watch committee as well is to, once you get everything set up, Dennis and Dan, they come in, if you're on the court, they're the best guys to have in, because they've been in here countless of years, I think about 28 years, I've only been here for 9 months. So it doesn't really compare as much, but they come in, do the presentation, give you all the paperwork where you sign up, become official, get your sign. Once someone sees the sign displayed, more likely than not, they're really not going to touch the community. It's not guaranteed, but it helps. So I attached their email addresses as well. So before you leave, if you can pick up one of those recap sheets. If you're in Burien, do you have anyone from Burien? Oh, right, you guys, see, you care so much, and you make up the place. That's amazing. You can give me a call. So we're picking it up a little bit more as well, especially with National Night Out coming around the corner. It's one of those events where we get every single block watch community to kind of come out, have a barbecue. Our precinct 4, our captains, they put a roster together where they try to get every deputy and community service officer to also attend these events. So that way you guys can get to know us and we get to know you. And it's the perfect timing for you guys to also kind of let us know what's going on in the community, what we should watch out for. Next thing is, it doesn't hurt to lie. So if you have a sign that you can put around that says you're being watched, it doesn't have to be true. You don't have to have a sign that says you have a camera here. It doesn't matter if you're lying. It deters someone from going in and doing something. So, you know, you can go, say, for Home Depot or something, $5 to get a sign posted up. If you have a sign that says, there's a large dog inside, I'm not going to go inside if I see a large dog, so I'm good.
That's us.
Right? I put the sign in there. Thankfully, my dog kind of pushes back if someone knocks, so we're good. But it helps out. So yeah, so that was basically just a quick review of what the Block Watch community is and what kind of function is as well. If you want more information regarding setting up an official Block Watch, again, just because that's an official Block Watch, it doesn't mean that you can't get your neighbors together, come up with a list, get their numbers, get everyone in the group. It won't even have to involve paperwork, but this one is just more if you want to sign and all that other stuff as well. Yeah?
Yeah, just, we're on nextdoor.com, and I know
Uh-huh.
it's easier sort of on that to form them, but they seem like smaller, I don't know. I don't know how big of a block it can be.
No, I mean, you can decide. We try to make it where it's 1 to 2 blocks, so that way you don't have a huge group where
Okay.
it becomes a little bit harder.
Yeah,
But we've had a lot of groups kind of create, similar to Nextdoor, but create their own blogs.
yeah.
Where if anything's happening, if they're seeing a spike in anything, log in, everyone gets an email that a post was
That's kind of good
created.
too, yeah.
Just kind of like
It's
Nextdoor,
kinda
where you
like
see
Nextdoor,
if someone
yeah.
posted, yeah.
Because I think some of the pushback on doing the official Block Watch, from what I understand,
Uh-huh.
it's more work and you gotta show up
Yeah.
physically, and a lot of people can't get out of their houses or don't have time, or, so I think that's why the numbers would be higher if there was a more simple way, or maybe a
No,
combination.
I
maybe,
completely
or-
agree. When I first joined the job as well, I saw the paperwork that was into it, and it's like, okay, no one's really gonna want a
Why
book
I'm
that's
not
this
doing-
big, read through it, okay, so we have to make an appointment, come, no one's gonna want that.
That's a lot, yeah.
And so that's why I tell everyone, sure, you can do the official way, but if you also want to do your own little community, I'm not gonna say stop, just
Yeah.
because there's no negative side effect from it.
And can we still show up to the night out if we're
Oh,
not
absolutely,
official?
so, no, of course,
Meet our
if you wanna
neighbors.
make your own barbecue, go for it,
Okay,
I'll come
good.
in too.
Some people just are maxed out, you know, don't have the time.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so, actually, the best thing about National Night Out, for those who are involved this year as well, you're in Parks and Rec, they're also working on creating kind of one main landing spot for those houses that don't want to have in just one little community. So where they come out, you can bring your kids and all that. They have fun toys and games and all that. So that way, you can also not only get to know your little community, but the entire city as well.
Nice.
And that goes for everyone. Even if you're in White Center, we're gonna advertise this like no other, just because we want to see a lot of people show up
That'd be great.
and interact, especially during the summertime. You can't deny.
Do we have any
great
dates on this?
Oh, it's the second, it's the first
food.
Tuesday
Yeah,
in
first
August.
Tuesday of August.
Oh, okay.
Same day as a
I think I
primary.
missed it, yeah.
Yeah,
because I was
see?
on
You know.
Primary, of course, okay, same day as the primary. So
Mhm.
you gotta vote and you gotta show up.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, and so, and it's worth it. I mean, I think that was actually the very first week I got hired. And that's why I care so much about Block Watch communities, because it's one of those where, once you see everyone interact and actually care for their community, it gives you a sense of hope that, you know, we can at least work together to where we can make the community work better. And so it becomes easier on us, it becomes easier on you as well. And so, do we have any other questions regarding Block Watch? In case, yeah.
So you said officially you can fill out all the paperwork, it gets pretty thick, is that a one-time thing, or is there?
Yeah,
anything on top of
it's
it?
basically, so it goes into our file system, we know where you're located, and we like to keep a roster as well. Most of the times we tell people if you want, you can also send us the web address, such as a blog post, so we can also sign up for that. And so we can keep an eye just to see what the activity trend is like, but it's up to your discretion. If you wanna make sure, you know, the police kind of keep an eye on that, it works out.
Yeah.
But it's not as much work as it seems. The book is just basically prime tips and all that. Is basically having us come out, say, okay, here's the paperwork. You have to pay for your own sign. The sign gets installed. You're part of the Block Watch community. So it's not as intimidating. I don't want you to think that this huge book is horrendous. It's not that bad, as long as you know you're able to get that group, that core group that's willing to participate. And it goes from everything. You have your captain, you have your board, everything where if something is happening, one of the residents can let them know, hey, I'm going on vacation. Can you make sure that you keep an eye on my house if you trust that person? You don't want to tell the wrong person. But, and on top of that too, if you go on vacation, we like to tell every single block watch is that you can even request a house check form, where you can go down to the precinct in 14905 6th Avenue Southwest, say, hey, I'm going on vacation from this date to this date. Can you have someone come by? Usually, if there's not a lot going on, a deputy or a CSO will drop by, make sure the windows aren't broken into the house, all that stuff. And we'd like to send you an email back as well saying, hey, this is when we went, this is your case number, and we report everything. If something does happen, that's when we reach out to the secondary contact. And then say if I show up, I don't have a gun or anything like that, that's when we call the deputies to come in as a backup. And they go in and do their work, and then they report back to you, hey, this is what happened, I was broken into. It's much safer than you coming in and going, oh, what happened? No one reports it, you have no idea when anyone broke in. And it can be quicker. So, yeah. Any other questions for our block watch?
Just one.
Yeah.
They used to have meetings here in this room, maybe once a quarter for all the block watch captains in the area, just to kind of cross-communicate.
Yes.
And I haven't been to any of those.
Yeah, so we've been working on that, at least both with the Burien and Unaccord. We want to bring it all together, because I know when I took over, that's the one thing that they said. It's like, okay, well, the block watch committee has been kind of falling back. No one knows who's the captain anymore, no one knows anything. We're having one big old email group that we're going to send out. The hope is that we can reserve a room down at the Criminal Justice Training Center. It's kind of down by Normandy Park.
What about the new, storefront?
We're just afraid it might not be big enough.
It's not big enough.
Yeah. That would be the problem where if we have a standing room, I'm sorry. But if we have a room over at the Criminal Justice Center, it's close enough for both communities where someone can travel. And even if we kind of gauge it where we're not going to get that big of a response, that's when we can step up and go into the storefront or something like that. But hopefully, by the end of the year, I'm hoping October is when we can have that.
Yeah, those are very helpful.
Yeah, no, absolutely, because then you can say, hey, we're having this problem in my neighborhood. How did you fix it?
Yeah.
Well, let me tell you how this works.
Or the car thefts.
And the car stuff, especially right now too.
I think it was a couple of years ago, they had one in Burien. And I was really surprised at how many people showed up.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
And
no,
so that
absolutely.
encouraged me, and then like the ladies had here, we kind of dropped it, and I've been emailing an Overguard, Pam,
Yes, yes,
Overguard,
yes. She's still there.
about, let's get that going, because I've been going to the West Seattle ones and getting information from them.
See,
Because they have it every month.
let's do it. Let's do it,
So
absolutely.
we gotta get it going in
That
this
is-
area.
I'll actually send the email tomorrow because we're talking, right now we have the Strawberry Festival coming up. And so I know that's one of our volunteers' biggest priority as of right now. But if we can get that set up even before National Night Out or right afterwards, it's the perfect time because that's
Maybe
when
that-
everyone's involved and everyone's here.
Maybe you could do like a sign-up sheet or whatever, a campaign there, you know, to say,
Yes.
by the way, if you wanna keep this rolling through the summer, and, you know. after-
Absolutely.
Yeah, just
That's
do it
actually-
at that event, or
Over at the
Jubilee
National
Days,
Night Out.
yeah, there's Jubilee Days too.
Yeah, no, that works out.
It's like, get everybody on board.
Yeah, no, because that's the thing, it's one of those where once the word kind of spreads out, everyone jumps on that. Oh, absolutely, I want my block watch to come back again, because we let it go, where people don't know who's who anymore.
Well, neighbors change too.
And neighbors, yes, exactly. We're lucky here that, at least in Burien, it's one of those places where we don't have too much of a change in the old residential areas. But at the same time, we have a lot of new people coming into Burien because it's an awesome city. But they come in there and they don't know who their neighbors are because we're more into the era where people don't go around knocking on their doors going, hey, this is who I am, how can I be involved? A lot of people kind of stay to themselves. But if we can put out the word, such as next door and all that, you know your neighbors.
It might also be handy to send some sort of a notice or an invitation to condo, whatever you want to call them, organizations.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Because they have a lot of art that they have some issues too.
Yeah, I know at the, I can't remember, it's just, the condos right across from Highline High School, new management took over, they're like, how can we help? It's like, well, forming a block watch community in one of those apartments is a little bit different, just because people are always constantly moving around. But it doesn't hurt to have such as a meeting once a week, or, you know, something where it can bring everyone together. Because I understand the apartments, it's almost nearly impossible to keep a roster sheet where you go, okay, well, this person move. Oh, they're still here, okay, let's go bother them real quick, see what they're doing.
But there are some
But-
condo things where people have.
Yeah, no, I know in Newcastle, where my mom lives, they have their own group, where they go, okay, bring your own food. That's how they kind of, like, hey, we got food, come over here, well, bring your own too, just in case. But that's how they get everyone, that's how they fix the problems. We're having a huge problem with breaking. And Newcastle's one of those communities where you don't really see that. So everyone kind of picked up and they're like, no, let's go ahead and stop that. Measures were taken right away. Sure enough, that's almost disappeared. They haven't had as many problems.
Yeah.
So you're gonna go through the news outlets as well? We have several blogs in there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. With the Beer blog, we're trying to get it.
Not just Beer, we have blogs that like.
Yeah, absolutely. Even with White Center as well.
Or the newspaper, White
yeah.
Center, or whatever you want to call it now.
Yeah, I think, I'm not sure if Pam takes care of that as well, but
We had to do little notices, but if you're having a block watch meeting or something.
they can be sent out. Yeah, absolutely.
Facebook?
Facebook, hey, and that's the thing, especially now, anything works. Facebook, Twitter, any social media that can kind of spark the conversation, people will definitely join in. And that's what we want to see, because it's such a cool program. You can be involved, and it's not that much work, and it's beneficial too.
Carlos,
Mhm.
I really want you to talk about the community police.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
So that is the second almost coolest program that we have too. And so we have a 13-week academy that we put on twice a year. The goal is where we can inform everyone what King County Sheriff's Department does. So we have it split up separately. We have SeaTac and Burien. We have also Maple Valley, and there are a couple other cities that do it. Unincorporated area, I believe they're working on it as well to bring it over. It's going to be exactly the same, yeah. And so what we do is we have about 30 students come in twice a year, 13 weeks, where they can learn everything, such as, we're actually just working on it today. We have a lot of classes that are fun, a lot of classes that are a little bit more dull, but we asked the class, what do you guys want to see? Because it's been the same thing forever. Well, we're going to go in the cars and do the tricks and all that stuff. No, we can't do it. It's a liability. But we can throw you in the car in the passenger seat, and we're going to be taking them out to Maple Valley, where all of our deputies, detectives, they all get trained to go through how to do the cool stuff, roll out, all that. And we have guys like Guardian 1, our helicopter, the ones that you kind of see roaming around, super loud. They land, show their stuff, and then they take off so everyone can see them. We have canines come in. So every sector from the King County Sheriff's Department shows up. Or at least we try to get them to show up. For example, we had Mars, right? Mars responds to accidents. So they showed up, and a lot of people usually, they don't get to see the technology they used. Well, the reason why the roads are shut down is because they have all the cameras set up, they kind of recreated the entire scene. They were able to show our class the entire scene just kind of flown by. Oh, you guys have equipment like that? Absolutely. And we have some of the best instructors. They love their job. Every single one of them will put 110%. It's one of those that you know they like it when they're supposed to be putting in for OT, for overtime, and we don't get a request for them. And we go, okay, do you guys want to get paid, or they don't care, because they want to go in and kind of share their experience, share their knowledge to all the citizens that we have. So for the Burien one and SeaTac, if you live in Burien or work in Burien, go and check. You can send me your application. Right now we're hoping for the middle of September, and then we're going to have our next session starting in March, first week of March. And so if you know anyone that's also interested, send me your application or their application. We'll get it in there, and we can get you signed up. We don't have an exact date right now, but I can tell you that it's a whole lot of fun. We do it once a week for 3 hours, usually 6 to 9. Food's provided. We try to bring you guys in that way. And yeah, it's a blast.
I'll recommend it.
Have you done it before?
Through it, yeah.
Yeah, I know we have a couple people
Yeah,
here
what
too,
was
right?
that? What time of the week will it be? Do you know that yet?
Thursdays. Thursdays from 6 to 9. And then do you guys want to share any experience that y'all had that you can share, what you learned?
I shot a gun. First time in my life.
Things like that, that's what we do. We take them out to the range, have them set up with Sergeant McLaughlin. A lot of you might know him.
Oh, yes.
Gun expert. The guy knows everything about guns. He will stand there, show you exactly it. We also like to do, we have a video game type simulator with screen that size, shoot, don't shoot scenarios, and just kind of put other people in that position. And it kind of gets them thinking, gets them all rolling. Like, whoa, that's a whole different world. But things like that, just to kind of give you another perspective, another view into police work. And it's, honestly, it's the coolest. And it's free.
I think the 911 thing was the one that impressed me because, like most people, I don't want to call 911 because I don't think it's that serious.
Right.
But they continually press you. If you think there's a danger, even think,
Yes.
give us a call. We'll handle it from there.
Yeah, and that ties in with the block watch too. We tell everyone, even if it's the smallest thing you see, a guy kind of checking the mailbox, call it in. It's still a crime. Even if you don't think there's a crime, let the deputies find out. Let them do their work. That's what they're good at. That's what their abilities are best at. And you never know, that little thing can lead to, whoa, they were looking for that guy 2 weeks ago because he shot someone. And you did that. You were the one that's able to step up and help us out as well.
As a block watch captain, the biggest issue is having people call themselves to 911, because they'll call me and say, Loretta, you know,
Trying to get somebody else to do the dirty
Right?
work.
Oh my God. No, that's
That's the
absolutely it.
biggest.
Yeah, we try to encourage it. There are people too that will pick up, that will answer all your questions that they see. You don't even have to say what kind of crime do you think it is, right? And they put all their knowledge to work to put into the computer. Computer goes to the dispatcher lets the deputy know what's going on. And it may seem a little repetitive once you call and you're like, okay, why am I still answering? They're giving all of those details, they're giving it to the deputy. So once they show up, they know as much as possible. And then we've had a lot of people say, why do they keep asking me questions? I just want the cops to come. They're on their way.
Yeah.
They just want to make sure that the deputy that arrives knows absolutely as much as he can. Because they don't want to be arriving to a call where they go, okay, so what am I doing? That's going to put them in danger. Any other questions?
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. We'll see you guys next time. And then we have a paper over here too for anyone that's interested. All right, have a good night.
Thank you.
See you on the night out. That'll be fun.
Bill, it's your turn.
Boy, he wasn't messing around getting out of here, was he?
Yeah.
I want to touch on a couple things that Carlos touched on while they're still fresh in my head and I'm thinking about it. The block watch stuff works. I gave a presentation to a group last week, and I'm driving through your neighborhood. I don't know that the brown truck doesn't belong there. You know, as your neighbor doesn't have a brown truck, he didn't mention that he was moving out, right? You know what's weird in your neighborhood. We don't know what's weird in your neighborhood. Get to know your neighbors and find a guy who you want to say, hey Bob, I'm not moving out this week, so you see a moving truck full of cops. Something else he touched on, it's called CEPTED, Community Crime Prevention Through Environmental Design. That's the lighting, cutting the bushes back, and through technology, you've got these cameras. These cameras that send, if they're motion activated, and they'll send a note to you. They'll send an email or a text message to your cell phone. I have one at my place, and you have ADT. And somebody breaks in your house. Your alarm, they got 30 seconds usually before the alarm goes off, right? So they know, and they know how much time they got. So then ADT, some guy in Iowa, gets the phone call, and he's like, oh, all right, so I got to call this guy. They call me, I don't answer. And they call my wife, she doesn't answer, and then they call my sister-in-law, she doesn't answer, I say, all right, we gotta call the cops. Who are we gonna call? We're gonna call Renton Police Department. They call Renton Police Department, they get to the dispatch talks to them, sends it to the police, and then the police respond. It's 10 minutes, right? They know they got 10 minutes before the cops even know about it. 10 minutes, they've got everything that they need to get, and they're gone. These cameras are, it's all Wi-Fi cell phone, so you get the message right away. You look at it and say, that's not my brother. And you can even take a screenshot of it to send it to the cops who are responding. You call the cops and say, hey, there's a dude in my house. He doesn't belong there. And that's in 45 seconds.
Wow.
That's how we're catching more burglars now than we have ever caught before. Because it's all instantaneous. And I've been looking at them online a lot lately, and they start at $49. And if I can figure it out, anybody can figure it out.
What brand is it? Do you know the?
But there's tons of them.
Yeah, I'm just wondering.
There's tons of them. ISIS, I think it's ISIS or something.
Yeah,
it comes with a cool flag.
House of Chair.
Online under security.
I'm sorry?
Online under security.
They just go to Amazon, who rules the world,
Yeah.
and type indoor surveillance camera or outdoor. They have them both ways. They have them where they're wireless, so you got to change your battery. They have them that you plug in. And I got the one that I didn't have to plug in case it cut my power.
Probably good to have a couple layers.
Test camera, Google.
Ring was the other one that for your drug off.
There's tons of. I was surprised how many of them there are, and they just you can hook them to your iPhone or your Android phone and download the program. It's always free, but usually free. I won't say always, but
You sometimes have to pay for a subscription for them to like actually keep the video files.
you might have to pay for.
I think it's like $10 a month or something to keep the video files, but I don't have the subscription right now. It just notifies me anytime something moves in my house, so I can go straight to it and it'll show me like 10 minutes worth of movement or something.
And I can even pan, zoom, tilt the camera for my phone. So,
Now, I know some of them you can speak to the criminal and like.
Yeah,
there
you
was
can talk
Yeah.
to them.
yeah.
But one guy,
Dude, the cops are on the way.
one guy made a mistake because it was his business and he was speaking to the criminal and the criminal just spoke back to him and said, well, where are you? And he's like, basically knew he wasn't there. And so it was his bad because the guy kept robbing because he wasn't there. So he had to, rethink how he spoke to the criminal next time. FYI, yeah.
So there you go. That's what I want. I have my crime stats. Who would like one?
Yes.
I don't have the one from Jody Holmes because she didn't send it to me. And I will probably get it later this week. So this is just the one I produced that is not empirical data. Anybody else?
We'll just share one.
One for you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Overall, it's been a pretty good week, pretty good month, year to year. Everybody's down, oil prices are down a ton. The only thing that's up is in the category of assaults, all other. However, it's up, but there's most of them are drive-by shootings where nobody got hurt. But there's still victims because people got holes in their cars and their house. Upswing is only one person got hurt in the drive-by shooting, and it's again all related to not all. Most of it is related to gang violence.
You talked about that last month, gang violence. Have there been any breakthroughs you can share or talk about personally?
No, I don't have it. Actually at the last night meeting, Joe couldn't make it because we caught the five guys with 5 guns, and I believe most of them are already out of jail.
Hopefully the guns are still in the.
The guns they don't get back.
Yeah.
The guns they don't get back, but it won't be hard for them to get more guns. But everything else is actually looking pretty good, down quite a bit. The burglaries overall for home burglaries are down, but White Center had more non-forced burglaries. It means the door was open, they didn't have to kick the door, so they left the door open. I had a call today over on 13th where just, she was literally a mentally ill lady, was just trying the door.
Yeah.
Neighbor called, we got there. If the door was open, it would have been a burglary. So non-forced burglaries where people didn't lock their door. But everything else is down.
Well, White Center now had a report about some teenagers with a gun at SARS.
Got door.
That was in the blog.
Yeah, I don't know where, but I know at least one of them is in custody, so we'll get more. And they got great pictures of them. 2 months ago, 3 months ago?
Yeah.
They sent out a bulletin to us, and you can't walk into SARS without getting your picture taken, and it's good video. And so they sent it out to all the cops in Washington. And somebody knows